Hello and welcome to another week of Monday with the Mayor. I'm Bradford Raths, and we're back in Jasper to see Terry Seitz.
Hello, Bradford. Very dapper today.
Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Let's start with last Wednesday, Economic Development Commission, your presentation to the commission.
Yeah, I give Andy Sanger, the president of that commission, a lot of credit. We had met for coffee a couple weeks ago, and I had the intent of kind of just sharing with the board, giving them an update. And after I talked to him, he said, "Mayor, let's do that," and ended up, having kind of an open invitation to people to come join in, and heard good comments off of that. Essentially, it was not elaborating as much as just looking at a lot of the things we already had on our projects and potentials list, and our approach and how we looked at that. Ultimately, as a good friend of mine has always said, that's a big elephant. And how do you eat an elephant? You eat it one bite at a time. And I always laughed about that comparison, but that's really true. Along with other projects that are not directly related or even indirectly related to economic development, there are a significant number of important things happening in the city, any city, at any given time. Then you have to kind of take things that happen that you aren't expecting or you hope you never have, of emergencies and things. And certainly talking with other mayors recently around the state who've had some tornado damage and other things, we've been very, very fortunate, and I count our blessings every day. Nevertheless, we believe that we are leveraged very well to play off those assets that Jasper has and has continued to sustain, that local employer-driven mentality, the ability to have a great sense of place, a good place to live. While still being a small community, we have a very large area of influence for the size we are. And that's very unusual. And as mayor of this city, I take that under consideration in everything that we do, that when we kind of do one thing, another thing's going to happen. You try to always think of those. And we've had great public participation this year in our meetings and events that we requested such. So ultimately, I think the public guided things like the downtown master plan and the country club design that was shared a couple weeks ago too.
Alluding to that, we just had Gamble & Associates and City Visions come back to present their ideas on the country club.
Right, and I think the consensus again had kind of evolved. When it first began, maybe in April I believe it was, there was probably a 50-50 thought of build-outs and structures and serving many entities with things on the site. Another 50% probably were going more natural. And it evolved. Even people on the advisory committee said, when I started this, I really never thought about how much my thoughts have evolved to where now we're proposing a significantly passive area with certainly structures to be thought out and developed accordingly. If anything, smaller ones, more pavilion in nature, but certainly understanding that the predominant aspect of it is natural, is passive uses, certainly a large water feature which becomes twofold. It combines two of the small ponds into one larger pond. I would not call it a lake, but also that then would become not only a water feature, but a stormwater assist feature, which means it could kind of help hold water back from the wettest area of the southwest corner of the property, and maybe eliminating the other small ponds so that there's just a single body of water. But that makes it for a signature possibility to have a bridge or something across. Utilizing the existing, I would call it a maintenance shop that's there, that's hard to see because you can't see it from 15th Street, and using that as some type of area for gathering and the things in the future. Those are some pretty low-hanging fruit, and I think that's really the passive persuasion of the community. Passionate persuasion to passive uses. That's a good way to do that. Hadn't really thought about that term yet, but I think that's really where we're leaning, and that's been phenomenal. And certainly then the continued relationship from the city and the schools of the understanding and how to best make that work, what could be done, and those are things that are still be formulating over the next few months.
As we wrap up here, looking back at streets, the street crews did a nice job, but obviously winter driving.
By all means, we had a relatively large snow, and it came in a very different fashion. And every snow storm or every winter storm is different. Whether you get rain, sleet, the famous wintry mix or snow, and in what order they come and how they're applied kind of makes like a big old bowl of soup. You can put the same ingredients in there, but the number of types of ingredients or how you add them changes the flavor. Every storm is that way, and I'm very pleased with our street department and our crews that have been out there that work on our streets. Nothing's ever perfect. I'm sure there's not, the streets don't quite get plowed in your neighborhood exactly when you want them, but we do have 110 miles of streets in the city, and each of those have a dual lanes, so it's roughly 200 plus miles, and we work on that very diligently. There's also different methods of application. Sometimes if it's raining, you can't pre-treat, even if it's going to snow, and that's sometimes where you see the juice or something being put on the streets. Other times you can mix it with salt. Then you want to make sure and be very cautious, and we follow things too. There's some guidelines about ideal applications of salt because of environmental runoff, which becomes a stormwater issue. Well, we kind of have to deal with those too after the fact. So we're cognizant of that. This is not your street cleaning of the years ago when all you did was plow, and you kept plowing until you got the street clean. But even those days weren't perfect. The cold temperatures, the type of moisture when it comes, it all mixes in. I think society has become rather impatient, and I respect people's desire to get out and go, but there are sometimes take advantage of a single night at home when it's nice and quiet. We're very blessed that we didn't get ice significantly. The electricity stayed on. We had heat, we had warmth, and ultimately we did have very clean streets. And so just want to kind of share that. I want to thank our crews for a job well done.
Absolutely. Well, Mayor, we appreciate your
You're
time,
welcome.
and since
Thank you.
we won't be back for a little while, have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all.
This has been Monday with the Mayor. We'll have more news right after this.